versus inherency of bomb that's used with disclosed zero-day vulnerabilities, unknown software flaws through the renders, loopholes not NSA to keep the seeking jeopardize widespread security, Stockholm and Rubini 15. Zero-day vulnerability to exploit street power because very little targeted to protect the company that affects software told about the file issue software to update the victim, more United States policy to federal government really made a company in order to ensure the companies will have the policy carry out about except for the file being exploit national security law for purposes. A loop kind of ensure the government order will exploit zero-day law when it comes to zero-day component race, security, public policy, and the government choice to purchase sacrifice use zero-day activate set upon the manifest value shows leave both the internet and the users get less secure, but they should be doing everything to power to ensure the vulnerability of the fixes USA are discovered. Next is IP theft. Intellectual property theft is expanding its scope of 0 days build shops with companies, which is key Jaffer 15. There's a nation-state-driven problem, multiple credit, multiple threat, economic viability, come day and data, working back away, every major U.S. company, intellectual property, other nation-state, no collecting intelligence, and collecting intelligence, China is targeting American corporations, intellectual property, everything can drive American economy, is state and data effort on our ability to compete the global market by having over the private sector, the private company to better defend itself. The government will always 0 days, nobody coming against the only thing against the hot water, the government will, with the TB targets, order, and tell us something of fundamental change and creating the joint between government and private to share the economic information, and I can destroy military operations were Code 13. Intellectual property, second drive American companies have to corporate IP theft that has impact any company will allow the ability to more like affect investors. The U.S. company 250 billion theory for the electronic order, international IP theft automated the U.S. military operating intelligence, the U.S. strategy, China malware dependent network, the military drones, the China hackers shut down the electricity and the cyber Achilles heel, and Russian IP that will target U.S. military technology on ONCIX 11. I see typically recommend aggressive capable of collecting some information technically building cyberspace will continue to play beside a wide array of technically used information U.S. order motivated by desire to achieve military party in U.S. technically but not ensure the foreign intelligence job the highest interest may be in military foreign and he will continue to collect information U.S. military technology or use of development effort to maintain the center U.S. maritime technology air supremacy temperature U.S. military to remain a driver to foreign effort to U.S. aeronautical technology and this destruction causes great power wars. Kagan 219. Great power competition, return American to recognize central world, present global international order, and muster the use of one of the power order again against and will change the great power and initially against his dominant fear and influence the U.S. is over the regional balance of Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. Road to the third invasion, China, the great scare when you understand the great artifact of water, in terms of his ability to return to world sway, severe to the return to great power competition, past century, they want to maintain a more world on the most very severe than so to protect aggression, trying to be economically working with international economic security competition is definitely the United States has a capacity unique geographic advantage of private security, no stable between the power of Europe and the United States. Without the U.S. willing to use military, about to establish the balance of product and the West civil Balkan country, military, company, regional powers, and Russian IP theft now Bennett 15. Russia ran cyber in the U.S. armed forces level U.S. military proliferation national property to try and leverage the intrusion in South Africa about 10,000 Russian intrusion in 2015 Moscow and get together to get ready to be got Moscow workers to target digital hits on the U.S. Russian sabotage and more severe for the assessment until the government opposes taking capability Russia will not be deterred and this theft is breach of power efforts Booz Allen Hamilton 13. Russian espionage Germanize is our diversified companies depend on the Russian foreign intelligence range, supporting product modernization, creating hidden development, IP that very companies, defense technology, secret stolen use, and the government network could give a China Russian military advantage worth billions, and that caused Russian aggression action of 15. 100 new Russian aircraft taking the middle rolling up assembly 10,000 troops showing the military ready to war. The Russian military name and name with top of the Russia, the nation 1 million strong military brief and Russian open new military base in the Arctic planet essentially bomb for regular Caribbean Gulf of Mexico military resource along the airfields. Security contended by nuclear very commonly again by defending course the Ukrainian military further be aroused by the fire for the weather mass military building was in Asia economic time beyond limit and nuclear escalation were already on the brink of nuclear war read 15. In which war approved relying on opportunity technology 11 for the extent of the moment of Western alliance, the U.S. running military challenge the Russia expanded part in Obama zombie service secretary defended by the warning armed Ukrainian military dizzy and against the world war is about nuclear capable streaky bomber nuclear capable of cruising with the polar border playing ready with nuclear weapons only when they change shipping to tackle nuclear weapons who has already authority there's nuclear weapon putting under the total war the ones that lose never in plain atmosphere was about to come to Ukraine because the course retired process being nuclear standard risk and miscalculations large moving back to military posturing as returning nuclear threats and next is critical infrastructure. Effective information sharing prevents devastating attacks on critical infrastructure, Bush 15. Many organizations face the sabotage and attack of the learned vulnerability of a single company they use the product grave risk. The critical infrastructure project currently funding information sharing government and national intel law for the community favorite because very similarly complicated cyber defending critical infrastructure and assembly without cyber sharing information between these communities, information shared with and say warning contract about how to happen. The issue has been elevated recent cyber companies and 0 days are key inadequate cooperation with the electricity water sector, Stockton, Goldman 13. Zero-day exploits can gather sensitive information and guide a computer or inflict widespread physical damage with weaponized zero-day exploit targeting aircraft controllers could send a pulse signal to plane zero, attack electric to leave the entire region company in darkness and capacity to cover zone need was scouted and most wanted damage to nation critical infrastructure sectors, air traffic control, transport, critical infrastructure along chemically mediated emergency service, final water power, nuclear reactors, the practice of building company generally operating modern critical infrastructure relying on information control center internet, you to run the system and more successful zero-day exploit. The government has the rights of it to support a product government safeguard nation critical infrastructure and the taxing out command and control at least nuclear retaliation until 412. A separate tech can take a civilian power grid at the same product grid also raiding military base and country command and control center grow dark raiders which shut down separate tech against users are going to be seen to act of war and can prevent the use of US military respond to nuclear weapons and US water security on the brink now to MiG-14. A nationwide trying to go on a water line across the United States around a water plea increasing journalists in 2000. Covered water fracking already credited driver in the United States and more than half of the fracking water unit being drilled over experiencing journalists drive water plea water body and framing string the scarcity can set the table for social unrest and water supplies vulnerable cyber attacks scanner 15. Homeland Security Report having to force security among these water to the network and actively protecting firewall stable and justice security in FLS and small security configuration and true vulnerability defector frequently discover some of the exploited security vulnerabilities by direct notification can be used to target the system and protect network level of risk unacceptably high and water insecurity risk global war Allen 3615. Water shortage within country could destabilize and jeopardize barriers in the same country. It can put a major global security public time do whatever it is, 5 chain or likely cut nuclei, combo water security filling become a major trend toward water and managing river drought plus civilization there using intelligence product water storage value be scaled alongside certain web master destruction, access to the water is placed over the wall, and auxiliary combo water supplies is a serious one and plan. The United States federal government to substantially curtail its domestic surveillance of computer software vulnerabilities or exploits unknown to relevant vendors next to solvency. The plan creates effective information sharing between the government and private sector, signal locally committed to key cooperative cyber defense overcome legal barriers, Russia 12. A second effective policy debates cybersecurity, public party resolved and child affairs, sharing security information, principal effective public party to cover the cyber government ability to share the threat of other information, some of the government collecting information, sort of method, classified, disclosure, risk, compromise, those security methods, and security getting complex, and to post new 9/11 center, enhance information to private sector, one that modified a partner right at the time of the actual cyber or information, private sector did not recently receive security and required accurately relying upon the information you probably can, ones that pose regularly, probably not going to be the ones that commit, and curtail 0-day storm cyber attacks, Nasdaq 14. And state by the laws, there is a regulated and makes it recourse really not because he's trying to give us 0 days just when it's meaning no one that I know is trying to Russian give us 0 days, close 0 days down to us, because take it upon the service, give them a weapon, the ability better defense around the world, and the NSA do because they're not protecting anyone other than so, and the scope of vulnerabilities amounts to the storm, and NSA 0 days, key hell at all 14. Ancient stockpile knowledge about security goals discovered in layers, what vulnerability information target the malware, the vulnerability company order to use over the discovered about the false summon market information, vulnerability sprung up, 0 day covered because of much protectors against the attack on nobody giving capability, so the vulnerability storming and saying, when the state discovered only how strong they become by so the vulnerability coming since the company passed for them, the vulnerability stockpile its own purpose is then disclosing them to the vendor so they can be fixed.
Alright, you ready?
Yep.
Cool, so let's start on your inherency argument. So, what are these loopholes that the NSA keeps using?
Alright, so what a 0 day is, what is an exploit in companies like code or security firewall that the NSA knows about and uses for their own advantage to surveil, but does not notify the company. So what it does, this exploit leaves it open for hackers to be able to come in and specifically like in a Russia,
right.
A Russian exploit.
So, if Obama is going to announce the if Obama announced this, right? That the U.S. is going to disclose these vulnerabilities.
It's specifically to how there's still loopholes in the NSA that allows them to keep them secret. So that's why our plan is specifically key.
All
so
right.
Him saying that doesn't do anything.
Okay, cool. Let's see. So how do you measure intellectual property?
Intellectual property. How do we measure it?
Yeah. So like, what's the tipping point for your advantage?
What's the tipping point? So
our advantage is very specific on how military software is being stolen now, like specifically by Russia, and so in collection more IP theft becomes a greater risk over than that.
So would you say that Russia is acting somewhat hostile towards us?
I mean, our Sanctions card shows Russian aggression.
yeah.
All right, that's cool. On the critical infrastructure debate, you say that our cyber security is extremely vulnerable now. right?
It's specific. The critical infrastructure, it gets more specific to.
But you're saying it's super
water
vulnerable,
electricity.
right?
Yeah, because
How long
these
has
are.
it been vulnerable?
It's been vulnerable for a while. It's just
Cool. So it's been vulnerable
it's the
for
risk.
a while.
It's the risk.
It's been vulnerable for a while. These attacks haven't happened yet. So
Okay.
why would they happen now?
Attacks have happened, though not to the scale that.
Right. So attacks have happened, but not to the scale. So why would their
Yeah.
scale happen?
It's a risk because there's still a risk because there's still the.
So we're
exploit in the
basing our
system.
entire
If
thing
you look
like.
at our Ginter evidence, 0 days are relatively new, and so with more information coming about these rules and more hackers being able to exploit these vulnerabilities, Ginter
So there's no
talks
proof.
about how these supplies are very vulnerable
All right.
because of these exploits.
So there's no empirics that it's going to be a big attack. There's been small attacks.
We have our
that-
whole advantage that there's going to be an attack.
Right. You're all about risk. But there's been no empirics, but there have been multiple attacks that have had nothing happen.
Alright,
Why should they judge?
Give me an example of
All
an
right.
attack where nothing has happened.
You said so yourself, but that's fine. Water insecurity. Can you explain this part of your advantage?
Alright, so we have our Dimmick Carver says water security is on the brink now with especially a lot of drought, and so in our forward evidence completely says like a cyber attack on civilian power grid or water security can be seen as an act of war and can lead to nuclear retaliation.
All right.
So taking out the water supply, which is key to life, can lead to retaliation in the Cold War. So people will fight to survive.
All right, we're going to go over the problem. You good? All right, every 5 seconds, everyone.
I just, yeah,
Can we borrow your flashlight?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. The order is going to be free off case in order of inherency, solvency, IP theft, and what was that? Critical infrastructure. There you go. Okay. Chicken that. Got it?
Do you have it?
No, it's not. It's not.
Okay. Do y'all have it?
If you don't have it, can I have the flashlight real quick?
Yeah, he's. I keep putting it in the job box. Well, Peterson said there's something, could be something in the job box. You just want me to start?
Yeah.
Okay. I got it. So, once again, 3 off, and then case in order of inherency, solvency, IP theft, and critical infrastructure. Is anybody not ready? First, initial surveillance is defined by the target. The subject of surveillance must be U.S. persons on a Q6. Initial surveillance focuses on the target of surveillance distinguished between U.S. and non-U.S. persons, creating standards, citizens, resident aliens, and the result foreign non-domestic surveillance voting issue. For first, limits the explode topic to include all foreign spying and espionage or hundreds of military specific country as each with distinct literature bases and advantages making that preparation impossible. And the United States federal government should lift all trade sanctions with Russia. And and recent Russian anger is only present because of U.S.-Russia sanctions. Kilkution 14, anti-American sentiment has been growing slowly in Russia. Sharp recent increases happened as a result of the U.S. sanctions that were imposed on Russia. When the sanctions began, many Russian businesses responded by putting up Obama sanctions signs on their doors and windows. New drums of the American flag were put at every access to Latin America would. Not everything that she swallowed into, everything we have to work directly so the U.S. would have no chance to manipulate the prices. They also add some Moscow support, selling toilet with American flags and printed on it. A number of Russian politicians have been working very hard to keep the flames of rage burning and lifting trade sanctions with countries result in peace. 40-year study proves 2013 for free trade between countries could reduce international conflict because trade forge connection between nations and nations gives each country an incentive to avoid which war trading partners make on analyze the behavior of every country in the world for the past 40 years. The more freely a country trades, the fewer wars it engages in countries that engage in free trade are less likely to invade and it's less likely to be invaded. It's a way from McDonald's analysis that protectionism can actually lead to conflict. First, trade rates and international goodwill, sides benefit and mutual benefit dispose of people to look for good in each other, exchange of goods, also promises and exchange for cultures. Trade helps to humanize people that you trade with. It's tougher one to go to war with your human trading partners than with a country who sees you as a line on the map. Trade gives nations an economic incentive to avoid war. Next, policy elimination, resistance, basic culture, presentation, reality through the repackaging reality in order to learn the creative furnace, you can see from the truth, inspire 10, condition of production to find legality through a portrait of description of the real acts, substitution for the real self-dominating every aspect of our public and private lives. The hypothesis between the spectator and speculator creates exclusion, non-existence, the proliferation of images, information, center overshadows production. This may those with subterranean viewpoints are solved those changes by power rather than allowing the event to limit this valuation. Suspends the event time for right to pre-evaluation for the event. The speaking time is relevant to way frame the media deems part for evaluation. This process is important political leaders, politics, and motor spectacle, which culture determines politics, providing a particular frame to a political process because it means legitimation of the public's eye. The media transforms an important political processing system characterized as competitive rates. Spectacle stage upon social anxieties of uncertainty whether prescribed way forward is the only way to maintain stability. The ability to define reality comes from a presumption of truth implicit within speech, namely the disbelief understanding of the world, the ideological half-truths of the action and epistemological paradigm. And the spectrum that of nuclear war is a subpart of a system in terms which neutralizes all events, including the possibility of nuclear war. Baudrillard 6. Nuclear suspension only serves to seal the system of assurance at the heart of the media that advance without consequence that reigns throughout the world is not the director of time to certain that paralyzes our lives. It discerns the customs of female, the originality, situationalizing the probability of certain time will not take place first from nuclear annihilation, which is a pretext and much greater probability of any real event of anything that would be an event in general system of sets of bounds to terms and nationality circuits and exchange from nuclear protagonists exactly as is in international capital orbitals on monetary speculation when destruction that circuits in nuclear orbits suffice to control all violence and potential conflicts around the world. No longer can interval in any sort of be deployed according to its own logic because it risks annihilation or strategies possible any longer the political stakes are only similar car of conflicts and carefully circumscribed stakes remain. And the determinist are rejected when he sees representations of truth failure to interrogate the debate of simulations or debaters and docile actors that see the agency to dominant power structures. By or 10, it is easy to influence others when they perceive there are no viable alternatives. Lands on images supposed to debate in individuals administrations decides that decision making did not resolve issues because their researches are substitutes for achievements. The idea that the public receives the entirety of the message is a myopic view. It is up to those representing to reveal the inadequacy of the spectacle in order to limit the abuse of power and see a constructive relationship between the public and social actors. And on a case, first inherency disclosures in the NSA's interest is more important than their systems are secure. The annual 14, the NSA takes seriously its commitment to an open and interruptible, secure and reliable internet responsibility, disclosing a newly discovered vulnerability is clearly in the national interest that has been continues to be the case. But to direct power abroad will be crippled if we cannot depend on them for these reasons. Disclosing vulnerabilities usually makes sense. We need to be secure as much as if not more so than everyone else. And solvency, no solvency. U.S. demand doesn't drive global 0 days use. Belevin 14. It is interesting to ponder whether the policy of immediately reporting vulnerabilities could disrupt the 0 day industry. Some members of the industry will responsibly and promptly notify the appropriate product vendor of security flaw within their products and services. Others do not use law enforcement. It's not like they have a major impact on 0 days markets. It is an international market dominated by national security organizations and cancel corporate trust. NSA does a lot of pretty evil things. SASO 14. The NSA was as Facebook to infect computers with malware. Does a lot of the company's brands. The NSA actions have also made it difficult to use to set international norms for cyber conflict. There is a problem rebuilding trust will be one of the top challenges. All the tech companies are in varying degrees unhappy and are not eager to have close relationship. And U.S. policies won't spill over. Obama has taken Americans' influence. Hawkinson 15. Obama presidency has damaged the image and interest of the United States among governments and populations. He feels traditionally considered allies. Criticism of the president's foreign policies come from the heart of the establishment. People around the world are noticing just about every crisis on the administration's actions and inactions have frustrated allies and partners and hurt Americans' interests. On IP theft, first European faith Russian aggression, Bandel for 12. Regarding extraordinary defense commitment from the U.S. Full the gap. Washington has much to worry about, but Europe is not on the list. The Europeans still have geopolitical concerns. No evidence of what Russia wants to forcibly reincorporate its lost territory in the non-Soviet Empire. Rather, Moscow appears to have regressed into the great power like Imperial Russia. The new Russia is concerned about international respect and border security, and no impact because Russia elites and our U.S. strength will return. Kuchin's 11, like the U.S.-Russia relationship, Russian lead perceptions of U.S. power and role in the world have experienced great volatility in the past 20 years. How the Russian perception is that not only the U.S. is less certain, but it is pursuing policies that are far more accommodating to Russian interests. There is no definitive answer, but from reviewing the last 10 years or so since Vladimir Putin first became the Russian president, U.S. policies will be important for the United States to manage its progress and continues to pursue a pragmatic set of policies that accommodate some of Russia's core interests in the current trend towards a more positive assessment of U.S. power and growing cooperation on a wide variety of issues will continue with the critical independent variable and plan prevents Russian modernization that's key to nuclear deterrence. NTI 12, the strategic nuclear forces still remain a reliable guarantor of deterring aggression. The new cruise missile the new cruise missile will be fired from the air and operational. Air Force could procure as many as 140 strategic bomber aircraft. It is the platform that can solve the problem of increasing nuclear deterrence forces in the Air Force strategic activation. Su-24 planes that are still operational are also underground updates. The change match modern challenges and give a response to potential threats against until 2020. Russia will provide not below 2.8% of its gross domestic product to military-related enterprises. By 2015, the share of new armaments must increase to 30%, and by 2020, by 70% to 100%. And Russian nuclear deterrence is critical to prevent U.S. attack, which escalates to human extinction. Sharovin 7, numerous scenarios, everything may begin as local conflicts will rapidly deteriorate into a total confrontation scenarios, involves warming from the Kremlin in the United States. The continuation of the aggression will trigger retaliation, the use of weapons and nuclear arsenals. It will stop the war of negotiations, both there will be no war, as long as Russia retains the nuclear deterrence potential. If, however, war between Russia and the United States breaks out, then it will end in a global apocalypse. Helping the apocalypse be avoided, American ambitions should be firmly counted on the basis of Russian military might first, and foremost on the basis of Russian nuclear forces. The existence of these forces is a guarantee that there will be no wars between Russia and the United States, and double bind either the turn works into and takes out the impacts to Russian modernization, or the only way to prevent this DA from happening is if Russia doesn't modernize in the first place, which takes out the entirety of the IP theft advantage, and
critical infrastructure.
Yeah, and on critical infrastructure, reject doom and gloom predictions, redundancies, check major collapses. Hodgson 15. When we talk about cyberspace, a lot of doom and gloom. Here people talk about the 0 days exploit systemic failure of these kinds of systems, and not easily induce significant impact is only when within the reach of very few nation states. Open cross-sects.
How do we link on the Baudrillard K?
You link on the Baudrillard K because you have these like massive internal link chains saying, oh, they're stealing like IP, which will lead to some great power war, which will lead to extinction, all these things like that. Basically, the whole.
Why is that bad?
Why is it bad? Because you're lying. You're basically telling the judge bullcrap.
Oh yeah. How are we lying?
You're lying because that's not gonna happen. Your internal link chains are bullcrap.
How do you prove it's not going to happen?
Right. So Baudrillard, Bayer 10 outlines pretty well that like using this kind of policy simulation, like just creates a space of constant re-representations of reality, which ends up excluding the truth.
So if we can prove our internal link chain is true or has a great risk, is there still a link?
Right. The fact that you're using risk means that you link.
So that means we can only argue about things that are 100% going to happen.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. What would be examples of stuff that's 100% going to happen that we can use as impacts?
Stuff that's 100% going to happen. Like, for example, if you say, for example, the counterplan. Say, if we increase trade relations with Russia, then Russia won't be as
okay, so you have an internal link chain too. How does...
We don't, though.
Okay, let's move on to the impact. What's the impact? Is it preventing nuclear war?
To what?
What's your Baudrillard impact?
Basically, we're just saying that the impact is that unless we go through with the alt, basically, if we don't interrogate debate, then it turns debaters into docile actors.
Yeah, how does it turn into docile actors?
Because essentially, most debaters, if we don't pass the alt, will just accept everything that another debater says is truth. By you standing from this point of, I guess I could say...
So are you saying just because a card was read in front of us that we're accepting it as true?
Right, so Bayer 10 outlines pretty well that like you're just using it to influence others, and the reliance on this kind of imagery is like opposed to like enabling decision making.
No,
like you're not actually
I see what you're, okay, what is your alternative to?
alternative do, it rejects your logic. The way that you represent the truth, it rejects that. Because it's wrong, it's bad. It just rejects the one you see.
Okay, so how are you gonna make debate not docile?
We're going to make debate not docile by essentially making debates about things that could actually happen, not these
Right,
long
so how is
internal
it gonna
debates.
expand out?
If you let me talk, thanks, man. So we're gonna basically make debate less docile by not making about these internal link chains from a bunch of authors who never read each other's work, who never meant for their work to be chained together like this.
Okay, how's it gonna get outside this debate room?
Well, basically, every time the alternative is passed, we get a little farther into changing debate. I can read you a card on that in the 2. And
Why do you read impact defense against Russia war and then a Russia DA? Like, do you believe it's gonna happen or not?
I mean, there's a possibility, but even then, we, regardless, still don't link back. It's a conditional.
So you're saying there's still risk? Okay.
No.
We're gonna take that.
Quick question, what's the status of the offer?
Alright, they're conditional.
Yeah. The status quo is always a valuable option.
So the order is going to be case in the order of inherency, solvency, IP theft, critical infrastructure, and then T, and then the K, and the content.
There we go.
Is anyone not ready?
Okay.
First one here, see, they literally read a card for us in the Daniel card and saying that disclosing is in the NSA favor. Yes, it's in the NSA favor, but the NSA isn't doing it. These 0 days cards still exist. That's literally a solvency card for us to conclude. Dealing for us, the card makes no sense. Now on to solvency, they say that the U.S. doesn't drive the 0 day market. The U.S. is key to the global market for 0 days. Let's go on to 13. Government's principal buyers, vulnerability, 0 exports, and very clear cyber attack. The U.S. government is the biggest buyer and burgeoning gray market where hackers and security firms sell tools for breaking into computers. The U.S. intelligence agency is spending too heavily on exports that they're turning the world in security. Some U.S. government spending billions of dollars every year so constructing insecurity, sophisticated cyber weapons, defense contractors, and intelligence agencies spend at least $10s of billions a year on exploits. The choice of government to acquire these exploits to use against the foreign government has serious risk for cyber criminals, state small hackers, and computer reverse engineering, source code, and most new malicious agents and the same authors. And they say that it won't solve the cost of private businesses, and private businesses want the government to cooperate. It's key to protect critical infrastructure. That's Tucker in 14. The responsible ministry of cyber defense is a place government private businesses ask the government to defend them from cyber attacks. Vulnerabilities split compared to exploitable security gaps across the internet. The more components are linked together, the threats include economic sanction, power grid, air traffic control, expand self-driving cars and many vehicle vehicles, and beyond infrastructure. The companies want to cooperate, and the U.S. litigants by the solvency of that all there. That was IP theft. War with Russia is likely and devastating as Nichols 5-7. Russia now openly considers nuclear weapons in the Eastern Army because they're being loose to severe force threatening to use nuclear weapons during conflict to deter an vulnerable match between the sides test them to make the broken now to show force the better trains with weapons Russian realize they force for hostile defeat and be fair to offense of the key state nuclear exchange regional military planning political risk national even failty inside the Russian nuclear special strengths against force already entire Russian nuclear infrastructure once a nuclear weapon provides hardliners will prevent the U.S. Russian attack with high nuclear capabilities against several hundred nuclear weapons falling each other and require the immediate destruction of Washington. Any of this is not possible. There are only answers on this. Our internal exchange doesn't make sense and isn't true. But we have shown that Russia is stealing IP theft now, and that's key to their aggression. It's Chaminade card. We have seen Russia aggressive now. Just look at the stats. Go look at the They went into the Ukraine. They're showing Russia now. Chaminade talks about. That's what Reed talks about. Our internal link chains aren't made up. It's showing empirics in the past and what Russia is willing to do and what has done. Now under critical infrastructure. They read one card critical infrastructure saying, like our stuff is all made up, but we have shown empirics. First look at the Ginja card. Water supplies are vulnerable now specifically due to 0 days. Extend the lean. Water insecurity can lead to global war. We have seen water wars, fights over resource wars leading to wars in the past. Like it means that the thoughts of the past is really talk about conflict being over resource wars, water wars being in the past, and they don't read anything on electric grids. Tilford talks about how electric grids can specifically take out command and control, and that will lead to retaliation by the U.S. because they'll take out command and control. You have to grant some service to the next again. They read no impact defense around critical structure. Now on to T.
Answer the turn.
Back onto IP theft. The double bind, like they said, it either happens or like with their DA or it doesn't. Like double bind makes no sense because they read impact defense against themselves. If there's an impact and there's no impact, and then there's clearly an impact. Like, I'll do more work when we get to the CB. Now on to T. We need upland tech specifically mandates that curtails domestic zero-day vulnerabilities within U.S. software companies with other advantages. Counter interpretation, domestic surveillance, establishment of non-public information concerning United States versus the plan meets because it curtails the application of American companies in touch with small aid. Domestic surveillance and sunset intelligence is the intelligence community best understands domestic surveillance as acting on non-public information concerning U.S. persons. U.S. persons includes corporations with the IRS and 15. The term U.S. person means a citizen resident in the U.S. A domestic corporation, any estate other than a foreign person, and non-public information includes intellectual property. Examples of information may include patent or other intellectual property malice. Non-public information is information that has not been previously disclosed to the general public and is otherwise not really available to the general public. For fraud interpretation, first, limits. These zero-day vulnerabilities are only in American company software and infrastructure which are under limit. 2, ground. The negative can still read counterparts and most generic is that they have plenty of ground based off specifically domestic information and surveillance being curtailed. And 3, aphorism. We recently talked by vastly reducing statements of surveillance and zero-day information with the U.S., allowing for debates about the effects of surveillance reduction. Down to the K. First on the framework, the abstract the weighty impacts of the hypothetically enacted U.S. energy policy that's key to fairness to any alternatives move to money C. Case outweighs global warming leads to a planetary extinction. Case outweighs with Russian war and critical infrastructure that will lead to that can lead to extinction. These impacts of case outweighs for the perm and perm do both. Baudrillard's politics are deep in conformist, playing with peace and hyperreality is totally into buying the peace of system shutdown any real alternatives and feel and critic when you pose no challenge to the system as Donnie Human one. Theorists of post-normal society may make a usurpation of the real by circling either long nostalgically for the distinction between them. The real might be Baudrillard in either of the case. They made the distinction between simulacrum and appearance. Society proliferating promiscuous images does not overly fictionize them, prepared not fictionize enough in the sense that submission knows the only rules of the game and then lead him to manipulate others. And the impact of distinction, the refusal to engage in traditional politics is an abdication of social responsibility that makes all social crises inevitable. Boggs in 97. Such problems cannot be understood outside of social and global concept of internationalized markets. The fate of the world hangs the balancingness, the ethos of the interpolitics is more willing, even fashionable. The U.S. hardly means the corporate colony civilization will be less than the reality of social arguments. Will somehow disappear the gigantic state military constructions will lose their hold over people. The space advocated they can be in fact be filled with authoritarian reactionary business. And Baudrillard's alternative fails to confront world politics. That's best in Keller in 98. Baudrillard's followers exhibited cynical despair, rejection of the belief in immense social reformation. This from Baudrillard's perspective, all we can do is accommodate ourselves to the time that's left to us. And relegating human suffering to the realm of simulation is just nihilism, crushing politics. That's Keller 89. Life does not exist as an autonomous source of value, and the body existence is the clarity of science. Baudrillard's alternative politics to reduce the play of science in the ways in which different politics alleviate and intensify human suffering is between Baudrillard and the universe. Baudrillard's theory espousing with fascination with science, leading him to embrace certain privileged forms of science culture and to reject others. And Baudrillard's bad. That's the A subpoint is forced choice between hypercynicism and rejection of life-saving technology. Baudrillard's idea of an inevitable indignation for real in the world of image production gives us two options. We can either live our entire lives in a state of constant despair, the unrealness of the world, and therefore we'll never be able to take effective action, gutting alt solvency, or we choose to take matters into our own hands by rejecting many technologies we end up backing with the dinosaurs. The impact is mass suffering due to disease, structural poverty, and practical geological issues such as water availability. Both options inevitably lead to mass suffering. This is a recently asked is a logical approach to the problem. And the B subpoint is no solvency. Baudrillard's work is all about comparing the present to the past, which is the only way he's able to make the claims that he proceeds. He works with the work of his followers, therefore is incapable of looking between the present and the future to see the realm of infinite possibilities. He thinks the world used to be better than it is now, and so he calls for a return to the old days, rather than seeing that our current position gives us a new unique way that capitalist system our advocacy. And furthermore, Baudrillard's ideal still links to decay because the world was still full of cute images. He lived in urban France between 1929 and 2007, which placed his entire life within the span of TV, internet distributed propaganda, radio propaganda, which means that even if we return to romanticizing the past, we do not escape the simulacrum of simulation. Even if they win that their alternative is exactly what Baudrillard wanted, they can't win solvency. And the C subpoint is passivity. Baudrillard ultimately fails to provide a legitimate action, emphasizing instead non-action. Their actions are inevitably co-opted and forgotten as their ivory tower collection calls for us to do nothing. Prefer advocacy of joining and becoming a revolutionary of the people in order to undermine the capitalist system now. Even if they win that we are inevitably doomed to failure, we should at least first of all we can make to ourselves as individuals counter the relation of the world by rational debate, not with counterfeit. First, conditionality is bad. One, strategies. Nothing can say make them go for the counterfeit. This is perpetuity in one area of strategy and offense allocation. 2, one dispositional counterfeit solves all of their offense, giving us control via turns, ensures competitive equity. 3, execution multiple worlds destroys the depth discussion of the topic, solves ways in advocacy is the negative. And 6, we can advocate perms. This is the only fair way to check negative bias from conditional counterpoints. This checks abuse because they can't decide if you go for the perms. Thus, perm do both. Their counterpoint is literally not competitive with the affirmative at all. Why can't we reduce sanctions as well as doing the affirmative? There's no reason why we can't. They just do the counterpoint. They didn't have benefits for the chest and the counterpoint, the double line, like just perm there. 7, fairness. The standard comes before anything else. The field is tilted 100% toward the negative because it makes education relevant. 8, reciprocity. At advantage of dispositional. If you straight turn them, we'll go for them. This proves lack of equity. And 9, infinitely regressive. Their interpretation justifies 40 conditional worldviews that we can't be prepared to answer. And 10, voted for reasons of competitive equity and education. We can just perm do both. Their counterpoint's not competitive at all.
So how exactly does case that way? Can you?
How is the case that way?
Yeah. Can you critique?
Okay, because with like your only argument against like our internal lynchings is like, oh, they're just not true. So like with the empirics showing like alternate or gimmick card or Ginter card or Chenikov card, the case that way is because we won't be able to confront the issue that Baudrillard talks about when we're all dead. And that's like the biggest problem here is like we have to address the case first in order to do anything else.
Where are we right now? We're not policy debate round. How are you going to solve for your so-called extinction impacts?
I mean, like in this round, like we're advocating for like.
Do you solve anything?
We are policymakers in this round. Like we're advocating. Hypothetically, we do solve things out of this round.
We are policymakers.
Like yeah, this could possibly we can become policymakers in the future. Like policy education allows us to engage in the discussion, allows us to actually change things.
Yeah.
So then we can confront Baudrillard later.
Okay, on T, where exactly does it say corporations are people?
Okay, according to the IRS, 2015, the term United States person means citizen, domestic corporation, or any estate other than a foreign estate. This is like the IRS. This is definitively what a U.S. person is.
Yeah, so you said that Baudrillard, him something about people suffering as nihilists. How exactly would you be nihilist?
Yeah, it's like Baudrillard's kind of just like the lack of doing anything and kind of like the denial of what's going on in the
How do we not do
scene.
anything?
I mean, what your alternative reader said, reject the 1A, like reject the 1AC, it's nothing else. We asked what your alternative did, they just said that's it.
With
So
your
there's
plan,
no actions taken.
with your plan, are you saving real people in real life?
Like, we think we are, like, if this plan could actually pass 0 days, or
So
actually.
So if you're saying that we're doing it so we can learn to become policymakers. So
Yeah, there's a bunch of different reasons.
so
why
your
plans
plan will
do that.
not. So the impacts of your plan won't happen, and you will be able to fix it
Okay,
once you are
on a micro
policymaker.
level, we're learning about like why deaths happen in the world, like why our impacts are like, could be real, are possibly real,
Could.
and how.
Is this how
How we could engage this.
policymakers? Is how policymakers actually set policies through by?
I mean, I'm not a policymaker,
By
but
bringing
there is
cards.
risk calculus and like policy. They're not going to just say, oh, war right now because whatever. Like there's risk calculus and everything we do.
Okay, cool. Yeah, how exactly are Baudrillard's politics deeply conformist? What does that mean?
Like it's basically talking about like Baudrillard. Like it kind of goes back to the idea that it doesn't do anything, and it kind of just like goes. It's like this harking back and like critique of like this system and like trying to like deny it, but it doesn't really do anything. It kind of just like conforms to like his own critique.
Your best in Culinary 98 evidence Baudrillard's alternative fails to confront real world politics. Is that a seat for the political argument? Would you say that that's a seat political?
Yeah.
Alright.
Cool. Thanks.
I mean, like, yeah.
Good.
How does the perm work on counterplan?
I mean, your counter plan is no reason why it's competitive. We can just do sanctions in our plan. Like, there's
Alright.
like, your net benefit is like our advantage also. So
Deep breath.
Yeah. How much time do we have?
I think these are
7:31. going to be counterplan and case. Case is going to be in order of cases in order of inherency, solvency, and then Russia, and then IP. I'm going to start with theory and the counterplan.
C counterplan.
No T.
Counterplan and then just.
Yep. Anyone not ready?
Yeah. I'm already.
Oh. So sick, it's terrible. Good? Cool.
First on the counterplan, we get one conditional critical advocacy and one conditional policy advocacy with different frameworks. This gives the ethic broad range of options, and it is logically superior because one, choice pressure forces strategic thinking, considering argument interactions, ethical choices a key to skill. Two, ideological extremism, defendable sides supports the ethic to defend the best of nuanced decision making. Most decisions are yes or no, but rather finding the best balance. Three, Nate flux. We need to test the other. They get 2 AR, death, 1 AR leeway, and Flippy 2 ACs. 4, information processing, conditional forces, education, a wider range of issues, and encourages research beyond generics. 5, everything is an opportunity to function multiple counterplan places and limits because they reach multiple diminished returns, making argumentative development impossible. 6, 1 advocacy fails, it links to all their offense, and next positionality arguments is the same as Congo. Apple is the same as Condo. Apple always make a perm next. On to the permutation. They say perm do well, and the only reason that they use this, the only justification for this perm is that the counterplan is not competitive, but we have competitive solvency. They said that they do well, but they said they do work on the turn, and the counterplan, but they didn't. The turn is a benefit for the counterplan. Any permutation is either severance, because that means that the wouldn't be doing something, or it leads back to the turn, because any form of 0 days restriction goes back to the turn. Next, we avoid the turn. The double line works as a turn to take out the impacts of their Russian modernization, or is the only way to prevent the DA from happening is if Russia doesn't modernize in the first place. This modernization is all based upon the 0 days was all based upon the IP theft advantage of 0 days. The idea that this IP theft can be solved. The whole point is that the way the double bind works is the 0 days makes it impossible for them to either solve for the modernization. Either way, it's either takes out the impacts, or the only way to prevent it is if you don't give them solvency. Next, actually don't give those cards. Next, go on to case. First on the inherency flow, they totally missed handled the NSA, the non-inherent argument that the disclosures in the NSA's interest, the whole point of the Daniel 14 evidence in the 1NC was to talk about how the NSA wants to disclose and how the plan is now no longer inherent because it's happening in the status quo now. Next, onto the solvency flow, they totally dropped our SASA 14 evidence. SASA 14 was great at talking about an all cause. The all cause was that no one has trust in the U.S. They never really answered to extend that across the globe. Next, they're add to the circumvention flow. Obama allows for NSA circumvention of zero-day policy. Statinger 14. President Obama decided that when the NSA discovers a major flaws in internet security, then the key models of the flaws can be espionage or cyber attacks. Obama carved out an exemption for clean national security or law enforcement need a loophole as likely to the NSA to continue to exploit flaws both to crack encryption and the internet to design cyber weapons. Next, go on to the Russia flow. You're going to extend the work I did on the counter plan for the turn that they poorly answered. Next, they conceded that Europe contains Russian aggression from the 1AC that was banned as well. It talks about how Europe is doing a great job at controlling this Russian aggression, which means they cannot have the impact from this. That one conceded. You're going to extend that across the flow now into infrastructure. The power grid is attacked twice a week anyway. There is no impact hope until 325. The U.S. National Power Grid faces physical online attacks approximately once every 4 days. From 2011-2014, the Department of Energy received 362 reports of cyber attacks and interrupted power services in 2013. 161 cyber attacks on the energy sector. Next, utilities are unhackable. 10G10. People have claimed proof of foreign interest in attacking U.S. critical infrastructure base, which begs the question: if it's so easy to turn off the lights, how come it doesn't happen more often? It isn't easy to do any of these things. Your average power grid is analogous to a PC or a corporate network. Complexity of such a system that they use the proprietary operating systems that are not available for study. Next, military computers are very resilient. Wyman 14 or 4. The risk of a cyber terrorism is negligible. Hackers do not have the skill or ability to execute an attack on anything more than minor inconvenience. Experts do not believe that the possibility to use internet to conflict the death with large-scale resilience of computer system to hack is a result of the significant investments of time, money, and expertise. Nuclear weapons systems are protected and they are not connected to the internet or open computer network and thus cannot be accessed. Next, onto their water impact. Cyber terrorism are real threat to the water supply, old tech, no effect, and high difficulty. Lewis 2, the water supply infrastructure would be an elusive target for the cyber attack. There are 5,464 separate water systems in the U.S. The uneven spread of the diverse network technology complicates the terrorist attacks. Many water supply systems rely on the technology and are not easily disrupted by network attacks. There have been cases when a water supply has been knocked down for days at a time. This has produced neither terror nor paralysis. A cyber terrorist would need to carry out a sustained attack that would simultaneously disrupt several hundreds of these systems to gain a strategic benefit. Next, resource wars going to happen. Victor 7. Rising energy prices, demanding concerns the environment are decreasing, have animated the fears that the world may be headed to a separate spate of resource wars. Such fears coming to in many stripes. The rise of China, which is poorly endowed with many resources. It needs money needs to poorly governed, but the resource-rich countries' global climate change would multiply the stress on the natural resources. Most of the bulk and nearly all of the focus on the wrong lessons for the policy. Classic resources wars was a good material for Hollywood screenwriters. They really curl in the real world. Next, on their cyber, back onto their cyber attack impact. Stuxnet proves too costly and won't do any lasting damage. Lane 15. The Iranians eventually reached out to open source scarcity research to neutralize Stuxnet through software availabilities and Stuxnet exploited the cookie patch by Microsoft and Siemens. In the end, Stuxnet only managed to delay Iranian centrifuge program by a year. Extensive financing is necessary to obtain testing equipment and similar centrifuges and mock facility for trials and rehearsals. Finally, intelligence networks are required to plant malware into the target network. Next, The grids are very resilient. Avila 12. As India recovers from a blackout and the darker ripple of uncertainty moves through to the center today in the U.S., what people really want to know today is, could something like India ever happen here? It's very, very unlikely that ultimately what happened. Wallinghoff said that the grid was divided in the middle of the nation. Engineers said it also monitored more closely than ever. The grid checked for the line surges 30 times a second. 16,000 miles of new transmission lines would have been added to the grid, even though some of the lines are old. Wellinghoff said that the chances of blackout like India's are very low. That also applies to the arguments about how there is empirics to prove that there are cyber attacks. All right, Avila as well. That is your empiric. This bad thing happened in India, but it's not going to happen here in the U.S. And there's too much safeguards within the grid to ever allow that to happen.
Alright.
So you said Stuxnet proves that cyber attacks don't work. Where was Stuxnet?
What do you mean?
Where did Stuxnet happen? Iran, right?
Yeah.
So how does that prove cyber attacks won't work in the U.S.?
Right, because it wasn't too costly for Iran and it didn't cause lasting damage for them.
So why does that apply to the U.S.?
Right, because
It's like 0 days specifically are in the U.S. software.
okay, so the Lang 15 evidence talks about how there are how Stuxnet was exploited, but it was quickly patched by other companies, and that was Microsoft and Siemens. In the end, Stuxnet barely got damaged.
Okay, that's fine. On the counterplan, you said we have competitive solvency and the double bind proves that we're competitive. You didn't explain. You didn't really answer the perm. You kind of said that. Why?
Right. The answer to the perm is that we have the competitive solvency.
Why
The
is it-
only reason
Why
that
is it competitive?
right, because the only way the perm cannot work, because when you have the double bind and turn, you cannot, if you do the 0 days.
Explain this double bind.
Right. I mean, we just explained it over that. Modernization in Russia is key to nuclear deterrence, and that nuclear deterrence prevents the war. So either
Doesn't your counterplan prevent modernization?
no.
You say your counterplan makes Russia not want to modernize. That's literally your counterplan tax. Your counterplan hard say.
Our counterplan is that we want to make trade relations with Russia.
Right.
So it increases Russian aggression but decreases modernization.
It does not increase aggression.
I don't understand how trade relations increase aggression, because it doesn't.
Okay, how does modernization increase nuclear deterrence?
Right. I mean, that was in the 1 and C. That was I'll happily get that for you. That was. Let me just find it. That was.
I guess more specifically, why does the plan prevent Russia from modernizing?
Right. So.
If they can't access all our 0 days, why does that prevent Russia from modernizing?
So the cards before that, the Bandau 12 evidence, which is which one conceded about how Europe is containing the Russian aggression,
Right,
and also the Kunchins 11 talks about how there's no impact
Let's
because
talk about Europe containing that argument from 2012. Did Europe contain Russia going to Ukraine? Paul?
what?
Did Europe contain Russia going to Ukraine?
Right. This Russian aggression is in terms of attacking.
Did Europe, Ukraine lives matter too? Did Europe?
Right. I get that, but your whole impact is Russia attacks everyone. But we're saying.
Okay, has Europe contained Russia in the past 3 years? Paul? Your card says they will.
Right. Arguably they did because Russia didn't just attack everyone.
When did they say they were going to attack everyone when they were going through Ukraine?
Right. Your whole internal link chain is what I'm talking about.
Okay.
No problem.
You sure?
Yeah.
All right. Are there new cards?
Yeah.
So we have a flashback back.
I'll go in the Dropbox.
You already put it there?
Yeah. There.
Let me see that date. Or maybe I did. No, it's just during process.
an overview on top. Just tell me about that. Is anybody not ready? Cool. First criticism links in terms case one information saturation A precludes possibility of realistic analysis and paralyzes the subject's act. The accumulation of evidence overloads our capacity to interpret with contradictions signifies an image's ultimate catastrophe. B. This independently turns case the accumulation of evidence prevents us from confronting the possibility of forms outside of the linear calculation and creates subconscious barriers to action by manifesting its own knowledge and decision to investigate. Addiction leads to extinction. The desire to identify every threat, every truth known isn't a possibility that leads to destructive symbolic extinction, which we fail to confront or even exist within reality. Rather, our calculation sacrifice, our calculation and antidotes characterized by intense self-hatred and willing to sacrifice everything to prevent the possibility of a threat. 3. This is a state's evaluation of how the ethics is constructed and performed prior to recognizing the advantages of meditation. We are not policymakers. Policy action lies always already in the hands of the elite who can reconfigure any attempts to add interaction to the political or the mystery that transfigures language and means discussions of traditional policymaking are meaningless because they'll co-opt distort attempts to effectuate change. And framing is a prior question which they produce the image a prior to what the images contain because the enactment and realization of the images is determined by how to produce a permutation. And on the permutation plus meaning on images creates worse destruction. The F alone, Baudrillard 7. What distinguishes the analog images at the place where one disappearance of distance of freezing the world plays itself out, whereas in the digital image, the image is merely a product of an instruction or a program aggravated by automatic dismission from one medium to the other, removing meaning brings out the essential points. Namely, the image is more important than what speaks out, just as language is more important than what it signifies. And we realize that the debate is a game designed to foster our argument and education. However, it's more important to consider how we're playing the game and who is winning within it. The imaginary impacts of our keys don't matter until they justify the rhetoric used. Justify that's for debate because first, it's realistic. The F will never get their hands on levers of power of the plan. We'll be past the end of the round regardless which way you build a burner proofs on them to show that this is uniquely good for debate. And second, this type of debate encourages ridiculous and educational strategies, like politics disadvantages and the race to the most nuclear war impacts, which have nothing to do with real world destruction, focus on the affirmative case where the most deep educational class lies. And third, speaking in abstraction about what from the world should take through their mentality ignores the marginalized level people who would be affected in 8 or 99. We're attempting to turn the mind in the task of abstract imaginings of what could be our world, a total view of what is the takeoff point of discourses on preferred world order, future risk deflection as the abstract projections it provokes might entail little consequences for the face and the names of humanity and whose perhaps we might speak. And further criticism is an attack on the justification for their impacts, which is like the attack on the warm kind of claim. They can't claim they can't say the claim will be true or outweigh until they justify the warrant for it by refuting our criticism. Fifth, we make teams responsible for their discoursive impacts could outweigh there be no way to criticize them for using sexist, racist, or otherwise offensive language because they claim their nuclear war impacts are more important as members of the debate community. We have an obligation to be sure our activities and use to marginalize them, which is what their impacts mentality allow. And sixth, our mentality encourages spectator mentality relevance become tools in our game of academic debate, which is politically and intellectually unhelpful. Mitchell 98 appears to overcome the competitive zeal of contest and round competition to show a tendency to concentrate on the meaning that such evidence might hopefully restrict their academic debate arguments through reports of masturbation might tie the uniqueness of a disadvantage of mostly inherent and affirmative case. Cultivation of the spectator mentality is one of the most debilitating failures of the contemporary education. And lastly, note there are arguments that these impacts shouldn't be in debate, rather they just need to be evaluated after you discuss the discursive levels so that their arguments aren't offensive, aren't offensive unless to justify why their mentality should be in the same levels as discourse. And the scenario and on nuclear war, the scenario for nuclear escalation war that they imagine will always be defended by deterrence. However, the fear of nuclear war is used just by state security apparatus that freezes the social maintains a system of perfect control. Baudrillard 81. The nuclear bonds of terror is never anything but the speculative soul of a system of deterrence that has instituted itself in the inside of all the cracks of daily life. A single crime that dominates everything reduced all ground level events being nothing but ephemeral scenarios, Mark-carded scenarios, and ancient impacts outweigh extended analysis on image saturation. In this case, as an object does not exist, it is an exterior construction of incoherent media bullshit. Not only do harms will likely not exist, though, when they reflect and paralyzes the mind and confusion, destroys our relation to the outside world, even if these scenarios are truly prevent any action to solve them, and two, destruction of mystery comparatively outweighs extend our openness, like they fuel the capitalist making a machine through the illusion of innovation, pragmatic problem response, their effort to change the world, our futile words say, drive to expand and reveal everything, destroys empty space of innovation, locks into a machine, and pressure slavery into the system, which is considerable without a life impact, and three, media information is no longer order of representation, image of war, and one, the perm still links it, they still act under an active framework of action, which is inclusive to the team and the argumentation. Two, perm can't solve the external argumentation that actively opposes the system extends the harms. Three, even if you could weigh the perm against the L, if it didn't link or has some solvency or neck on the risk that they still fall under active radical opposition will continue to do so as proved by the 1AC. Three, four, perm servers we choose our advocacy in the 1AC. If you change that to measure criticism that we can challenge the initial advocacy that severance this skill neck ground is you can move the advocacy out of the way if any harms presented by the 1AC.
Political.
And group their Donahue blocks evidence. This argument is not responsive.
Three 344.
Taking a lot of breath.
card, and I'm pretty sure the Gangly Day card was referencing Gangly 99, because like events in 99 and 01 prove that nuclear deterrence checks because the Gangly 99 card that we have is like nuclear deterrence doesn't check the events of Kashmir.
Oh, yeah.
You're off the game name, right?
Yep.
Where's Damien?
Laverne.
Laverne?
Laverne is a county of Los Angeles.
Like where? You're like Reed.
Are you guys familiar with California?
Yeah, we're from the valley.
Yeah.
Oh, Claremont? You were?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, you were
Yeah.
there. Okay.
We're right by Claremont.
We're from like the valley, like Encino, Calabasas.
I see, okay.
Justin Bieber land.
Justin Bieber
Or
land.
used to be Justin Bieber land. If you want to put that on.
I'm from the line of NWA. Sorry. Assassin's Creed game, 790s.
Alright, so just wait for him to come back.
Not no.
Alright. So the order is IP theft, critical infrastructure, inherency, solvency, counterplan, okay. Alright. Is everyone ready?
Yeah.
Alright. We can see the brand of evidence saying that Europe contained Russian aggression to this complete. It takes out their dissent on the term because then because Europe will just contain the Russian aggression of the nuclear war that Russia will apparently pose in the turn, which means there's no access to the turn, and having no access to the turn will mean there's no access to the counterplan. There's no way the counterplan is actually combated at this point. It doesn't give the double line work anymore because Russia will modernize it. Normally, you can just look at our Ben Evans. We're not going for IP theft. Do not give him the counterplan on the critical infrastructure. We have the biggest impacts in the way. We are actually the ones that have impacts in this round, and the reason why you can just look at the water supply vulnerability, which are causing our Gina 15 evidence because the zero-day exploits are causing or they can be exploited, and just any small attack from our Damien 14 can be seen as an act of aggression, can lead to nuclear retaliation, which can lead to our LM 3615 evidence to global war because water is the key aspect of life. So people will fight to survive, and they read a ton of impact events. So just in general, you need to look at our Gina 15, which is the newest evidence in the round. All their evidence is from like 2002, which I explained for how there are a lot of flaws in the water and energy system right now. There are a lot of vulnerabilities. I mean, there's still an actual ability for this impact happen because all their impact events evidence just on a specific company. It's not specific to the U.S. It's not recently. You can look at the top 325 evidence because we still gain a risk. We got our Ginner evidence, which talk about the vulnerability there. There's Hanger evidence, but that's just generally it doesn't even really mention the military. Then they have their 144 evidence saying the military communications are reliable. Though we have seen them be hacked. We have seen them be hacked before, and it's just more about matter on the electrical grid. We're just waiting for the big one, and evidence is old, and evidence doesn't assume 0 days, and then they have the loose evidence. So the one that is old and tech is more connected now compared to loose. Although the electricity grids are connected now, and has complete spread, and then they have the Victor 07 evidence. So it does not not assume the lack of water that will happen after the resource war. Just talks about food, and also they have their rule of 12 and saying about how the grids are original. That was just about one specific company. There is no way that these grids are resilient. There is complete actual ability for it to happen on an heresy. They have their Daniel 14 saying disclosure and I say though that card is for it because it doesn't matter because one, the card doesn't even mention 0 days, so it is not specific. It doesn't matter whether NSA wants to disclose or not because there will still be loopholes at the end of the day, so there's no really gain advantage and not really impact Saddle well. And then they simply drop the Saddle 14 evidence, so we answer with the Topper 14 evidence saying how the private companies want the government to stop these 0 days and to notify and to gain is stress do not allow them to allow on just play VR. And then they have the circumvention argument though the plan was solved because Obama will not allow circumvention because those circumventions only happen because of the lack of policies on the counterclaim. Extend the perm. There is still no net boundary. We can see the one argument on case the perm still solved it is not separate and it does not link back because there's no net boundary. There's no reason why we can't do it onto the K. They consider a role about how the alpha must weigh on a hypothetical action. The role about you must weigh on an actual test of the. Just doesn't allow because the Baudrillard doesn't talk about the effects of the plan or what is actually going to happen. This was not even really talked about. So this is going to accident in case that way because the impacts are actually true. If there's any chance that the impacts will actually happen, you need to vote affirm. And even if discourse focuses on part of reality exists in the theoretical philosophizing. Let's show 11. Leave this regarding subway category determined saying a very near policy code and a very question on top of what an unconfirmed policy code. I think I spot on the partnership passing and I social contact kill. Let's be social constructed could show them into the commanders of some social code. I mean, they're basically going to be deploying this sort of piss model, what nonsense, they're responding, got to go there, and then they completely drop to see the bullet as their best in color 98, 70, they completely see the color, but I mean, there's no term because there's only way, by going through C, that's the only way you're actually going to make change, and they never talk about, they only talk about how our impacts are not true, and they now talk about the risk, you need to extend the perm that you have, then the alternative is the only way to do because the impacts are actually true, we need to risk it.
How much time do we have left?
Yeah.
3:15. counterplan case. Case in the order of, actually we're going to go case counterplan, I'm sorry. Case counterplan, case in the order of solvency, infrastructure, and IP, and it'll be the counterplan. There'll be an overview on the counterplan when I get to it.
Sorry, counterplan on top.
Bottom.
Oh, okay.
Anyone not ready? Actually, the K on top. I forgot. I need something on the K real quick. The K, and then the rest of the order. Is anyone not ready? Cool.
Conceded Baudrillard no solvency. We're not going for this argument. That's not the case. They tried to say that Obama will not allow the circumvention that was given in the 2AC, but they totally mishandled this argument because the circumvention argument is perfect about how Obama will always be allowing for circumvention of these zero-day policies. Sanger 14 was amazing on that. All their answer was Obama won't allow this, but clearly Sanger 14 allows it. We have a more credible evidence. They just didn't give any evidence at all. Next, next go on to the infrastructure debate. The whole one era made a huge mistake. They were talking about how any attack. The biggest mistake is that they said that any attack will result in war because it is perceived as war. You need to extend hope of 325 from the 2NC, which talks about how there's at least 2 attacks per week on the cyber grid. Why has their impact not been triggered? Because it doesn't make any sense for any attack to actually cause a war. Top of it, 325 is amazing evidence from all the way back to 2011 to now on how we're not gonna how this is how their advantage is empirically disproven. They cannot say that our evidence is too old. 325. I mean March 25th of this year. All right, now go on to infrastructure. They conceded the Europe argument, and they think that takes out the term, but they made a huge mistake. This is actually going to be one of the key. This is going to be a major point of the debate. The concession of Europe checks Russian aggression means that the double bind becomes the turn part of the double bind. The turn is that there's no impact to modernization. Extend NTI 12, which from 1NC, which talks about how the plan text itself stops the modernization, which is key to deterrence. The key to deterrence makes it. Key to deterrence is specific to stopping the modernization. We don't lean back to the counterplan because our counterplan does not do anything negative to modernization. If you look at if you look at the evidence from the 1NC about the counterplan, it's great talking about how we're restoring peace, which is how we resolve the double bind, which is now going to lead you to the counterplan. You're going to be voting negative on the counterplan because they have missed the benefit of the counterplan, which is Russian peace. The fact that they're trying to pass this plan will stop Russia from modernizing that stopping of modernization leads to the destruction of nuclear deterrence. Russian nuclear deterrence is key to prevent great power war that went almost totally unresponded to. They really didn't even give evidence. The only thing they read on the counterplan is the perm, which I will get to now. The only justification for the perm to both is that it's not competitive. They keep thinking that they think that the counterplan is not competitive because we don't have a net benefit. Clearly, we're winning this net benefit debate because the I'm sorry. Because the net benefit is going to be the turn. Any any form of the plan mixed with any with the counter plan will result in demodernization of Russia. That demodernization will ultimately trigger the turn. You cannot give them any perm solvency compared to the solvency of the counter plan alone. The counter plan alone will clearly states from the one I see first from Coalition 14 is that recent Russian anger is only present because of sanctions, and then next how Jordan 13 talks about how lifting these sanctions with countries results in peace, and we have 40 years of study which proves this. They have no reason why their particular thing actually stopped the Russian war. They concede because of the conceded Europe checks. They lose all solvency of that advantage. You're going to be giving the debate to the negative.
51 seconds.
Yep. My spreading sounds so weird because of my sore throat. No. I'm starting to sound like Alex. You know that's how Alex spreads.
It'll be case in the order of solvency, critical infrastructure, and then the power plan. I'll do like the IP theft stuff on the power plan. There'll be an overview on top. So we're not ready? You'll be voting affirmative for two reasons. First, the case outweighs the disadvantage. Even if you give them 100% access to the disadvantage, the case completely outweighs the disadvantage because they only have a protection and disadvantage that nuclear deterrence could possibly take away. They don't have an actual impact to theirs, just this possible protection advantage. And two, on the perm, they've not answered the perm correctly. They just keep repeating that it's competitive because then they just reread their solvency. I'll get to that right on the perm. But because the case outweighs, that's what you'll be voting on. First, on inherency, they read the Daniel card. They said Daniel stops inherency, but Daniel only says that the NSA should do this. The NSA hasn't done it. The 0 days hold still exists. This closes solvency to us. And then they read circumvention, and the only thing on circumvention say Obama wants the NSA circumvent, but our inherency evidence that we've read in extended authority says Obama wants 0 days to stop. Specifically, our plan text solves and mandates this. They haven't extrapolating circumvention at all because 0 days will no longer exist due to our plan text, and there's going to be no circumvention now into critical infrastructure. They make a huge mistake in their last speech by only going for electricity grids or critical infrastructure and completely ignore water supplies. Sure, we'll concede that there's no attacks on electricians, but water supplies are still uniquely vulnerable. They dropped Ginter 15, which was the newest evidence in this debate that specifically talks about because 0 days water supplies are uniquely vulnerable. They don't extend their Lewis 2 evidence because it's pretty bad. It's from 2002 that says the technology will appear. That's from 2002. In 2015, it is vulnerable because of new technology of 0 days. Extend Aleem, the water insecurity will lead to global war. They say that there's no resources. We can see resources. Aleem specifically talks about how in the Palestinian-Israeli conflict trial there are resource wars happening now. You can't just blankly say there's no resources. They completely ignore water insecurity. You have to grant us a 100% risk of the impact and 100% risk of it solving. They don't cover impacts on our real, and since there's a 100% risk of this impact, this is the biggest impact in this day. Ginter specifically talks about because 0 day holes are there, they can be exploited, and then the threat for these exploitations are happening. That's what we're talking about in the Dimmick card. Dimmick says water security is on the brink now. Because we're in a drought right now, water security is on the brink, and it's vulnerable. Any attack that will even lead to a little bit will hurt the water supply completely and will lead to water security and global war. Because you have water insecurity, that's the reason for like wars in Asia, like Asian water wars, like Aleem specifically talks about that because of these zero-day exploits. This is the biggest impact in the state, and we can complete solvency to this. They do not extend anything on water supplies. It is different from electricity grids. That is, they only read this evidence on electricity grids. Water supplies are uniquely different, and it's because of 0 days that these attacks will be absolutely massive. Water wars can extend because of research. People will fight for their lives. So let's do what Aleem will talk about. I'll be cross-referencing the advantage on the counterplan with the case outweighs. The case outweighs the counterplan, one, because their only benefit is that with Russian modernization there will be policy nuclear deterrence, not that without Russia nuclear weapons will be launched automatically because they don't explain any motive for nuclear weapons. But the biggest problem is they have absolutely no link to how the affirmative prevents Russian modernization. We've said this throughout the affirmative, throughout the debate, how the double line doesn't make any sense. They don't explain how our affirmative prevents modernization, and therefore we can just perm do both. There is absolutely no reason. They keep saying that sanctions are key, sanctions are the problem. Okay, sure, sanctions are the problem. Lift sanctions. 0 days are also a problem for another issue. You can do both. Also, Europe checking Russian power checks, that's their Bando evidence. Even if they saw Russia, there was no impact of this, meaning at worst you vote half on presumption, because presumption flips half when the net runs a conditional world, and the plan does not limit Russian modernization. This is a huge part of it. Nowhere do they extrapolate why we can't have the permanent say, oh, it's a double line, oh, it's a double line, oh, it's a double line. Nowhere does the plan limit Russian modernization. This is huge. They have absolutely no offense on this flow because the plan doesn't limit Russian modernization. If anything, it helps Russian modernization because with the perm, because we'll be able to lift the sanctions as well as solve for the water and security impacts that could inevitably bring to a great power war, as that evidence talks about, that Russia could be pulled into. That's net negative for Russia. So the perm is the best option here because they do not extrapolate any work on perm, but they keep repeating, oh, the double line, oh, the competitive solvency, but they don't explain why. The solvency is completely not competitive. It's a completely different issue. I cannot stress this enough. They have no work on the perm in the last speech. You can't. You have to grant the affirmative, 100% risk of the perm, and because we have the perm, and the case outweighs any impact, even if you don't grant us the perm. You have to vote affirmative. You have to vote affirmative on that. On their double line, they say they have their term of nuclear deterrence, but again, they say Russian nuclear deterrence. They know where to say Russian nuclear deterrence is key, but rather. But then lifting sanctions, Russian nuclear deterrence will still be happening. Well, right now there's no nuclear weapons being launched, and Russia has sanctions under them. So they haven't shown why their impact will happen, no time for their impact. They haven't extrapolated their impacts whatsoever. You have to look at the water wars impact that have been extrapolated in the Ginter evidence, how water security is vulnerable, and the Dimmick evidence, how water security is on the brink now. Those are the two biggest pieces of evidence in the data, along with the Aleem evidence, that the impact will be absolutely massive. Since they have no impact defense on this, they don't expend any defense, and their perm arguments make absolutely no sense. You can just do a counterplan both on the perm because it's absolutely no competitive, especially since we conceded Bando, which checks for the Russian power. Even if you buy all that, Bando checks for Russian power, and the case outweighs, and you can go for the perm.
Good debate. Here's your old
Who's Dylan and Spencer? Dylan is the 1A.
You stay.
Colin.
That would be the one. With all the factors are slowing down and spreading. I think that's the one thing is like, say, from spreading. Yeah. My throat. It still stays wet.